Today we're in Colossians 1, verses 15 and 16, and in this passage we see that everything that exists for its creator, Jesus. In this passage we see who Jesus is and what Jesus deserves. So let's read it. He is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn of all creation, for by him all things were created, in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or dominions or rulers or authorities, all things were created through him and for him. So here we're talking about Jesus. This he, if we look at the verses prior, we're talking about Jesus here. Now Jesus is the image of the invisible God. Now we can't see God, right? I can't point over there and be like, oh, there's God. I see him right there. He's shaped like this. No, you can't see God because he's invisible. But what's really amazing is that God showed us grace in that when we couldn't see him and even when we were far from him, he decided to show himself to us in Jesus. Now, something that's really cool, if you were at our Worship Together gathering in October, I taught through Isaiah chapter 6, and we saw this amazing scene of God high and lifted up on his throne. And his glory and his holiness is shining in the temple in front of Isaiah. And if you look in the New Testament, in John chapter 12, John actually tells us that what Isaiah saw there was Jesus. The God high and lifted up on the throne is actually Jesus. In that moment, in Isaiah 6, he sees Jesus, the image of the invisible God. He couldn't see God. God is invisible. And yet God has shown himself to us in Jesus. He is the firstborn of all creation. Now, a lot of people get tripped up on this word firstborn. This doesn't mean that Jesus was like born and then the creation happened. It doesn't even mean anything like Jesus was created like the rest of creation. No, we know that Jesus is the eternal Son of God, that Jesus has always existed. He had no beginning. But in this culture, the idea of firstborn carried with it, like if you're the firstborn of your family, you get inheritance. You're kind of the head. You get the prime position of the children if you're the firstborn. Well, Jesus here, it's saying there's all of creation and then there's Jesus. Jesus is over and above. He's greater than. He's preeminent. He's above all creation, okay? The firstborn of all creation. Now, why? Why is he above all creation? Well, this says, okay, we're going to link back up to the verse, to what we said before, and we're going to give a reason for it. By him, all things were created. All things were created. And if you notice, if you skip down, we're going to see this again. All things were created. And remember what I've told you about whenever we see things twice. It means they really mean it. It means this is really important. All things were created. There's no exceptions here. All things, everything, things in heaven and things on earth. That's like angels and seraphim and whatnot, and then all the things that you see on earth. If you can see it, he created it. But also visible and invisible. So if you can't see it, he created that too. Jesus created all of it, whether thrones or dominions or rulers or authorities. This is not just talking about things. This is talking about like ideas and positions and authorities and governments. You know, we think we're all that because we've made all these governments, like as Americans, we think we're so smart. We have democracy. We'll elect our leaders. We got a president, you know. Well, none of that exists without Jesus. Without Jesus, the creator of all things, there's no president of the United States. In this time, there's no emperor of Rome. It all comes from Jesus because all things were created through him and for him, through him. This means that whenever in Genesis 1, it says God created the heavens and the earth. This is talking about Jesus. Jesus created the heavens and the earth. All things are created through him and for him. Y'all, this tells us the purpose of everything in our lives. You were created for him. Your church was created for him. Your family, your school, your relationships, your possessions, all of it was created for Jesus. And so that leads us to a question that we have to ask. If you look around at all the things that you have, all the things that you do, ask the question, how is this serving Jesus? Or maybe the question, how should it be serving Jesus? How is my life? How is my family? How are my possessions? How is my time? How are my relationships serving Jesus?